Welcome to Cardano Over Coffee with your hosts Hero Pool, Jenny from the Blockchain, Blockjock, and Epoch Pool. Today's show we have Knackfish from the Tavern Squad. They're a collection of 10,000 NFTs on the Cardano blockchain. The team has created a gamified Cardano NFT collection, and they want you to join them for a mystical and rewarding adventure. Currently, the Tavern Squad DApp has 300 average daily players. Grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and let's jump right into it with the Tavern Squad.
We have some guests here with us today who've been building on the Cardano blockchain for quite a while. Hell, I can't even remember your first visit to the show. I was probably a year younger than I am now. But we got Tavern Squad, who is behind the PFP.
Knackfish Luca is behind the PFP as usual, I would say.
Yeah, I figured it was you, but sometimes people throw me curveballs. So, what up?
Nah, I won't do that.
Oh, great. I appreciate it. So, Tavern Squad, you got your raids going on. You got all kinds of things going on. But let's start from the beginning, right? Tell me a little bit about yourself for those that don't know you. And then how did you get to blockchain and Cardano?
Yeah, sure. So, Luca, coming from the corporate space, worked in the management of a startup for 3 years before I quit my job, moved into a camper van and made cryptos and NFTs my full-time job back in January last year. Or actually, that's where I quit, and then we made it a reality mid-year. But yeah, so Tavern Squad started out as a fun thing between two guys kind of stumbling into the NFT world. So in September 2021, I stumbled upon something called NFTs, and I thought, well, I don't understand that, put it aside, but then decided to take another look at it because I didn't want to miss the next big thing after I missed crypto for quite some years, and read about it and bought my first Ethereum NFT. Obviously, was a little bit confused about all the fees and didn't understand that part. Then discovered Cardano NFTs and minted my first NFT back in September, which was Dexo Worlds. And I think after that, I met someone in the Dexo Worlds community, and he had an idea for an NFT project that I would say wasn't the best. He wanted to sell dices, so 3D renders of dices. Sounds strange, but that was the idea. So we got into talking about what his vision was and why he would want to sell dices, and then we kind of agreed on working on something together. So that it wasn't really my plan to do an NFT collection, but once we got talking about the ideas we had and what we could work on, we kind of fell in love with the concept, and here I am now. That initial co-founder dropped out, I think half a year ago, but we're still going strong. Now I'm kind of the sole founder of the project. Our mint started back in December 2021. We had quite a long mint of about 1.5 months. We've been guests on Cardano Over Coffee in that period a lot of times. We got a lot of interesting questions on our visits. Is 10K the right amount? Do you think you're going to sell out? What is your vision? All these questions that were not that easy to answer back then, but I think we showed that we can do it, as we sold out and then kept on working on our vision, and that was just bringing gamification to the Cardano NFT world. And we've been doing that since day one, since the mint started. We had some pretty nice gamification features going on: account system, daily quest, weekly quest, achievements, and leaderboard.
I don't want to say that you guys were like the first to do that, but you were like really close to one of the first, right?
We were first.
I knew that you were kind of really close to, if not the first. So, because I remember, I was oh, this is really cool.
Yeah, on some features we were first. On some features, I think Dirtbirds was first on the leaderboard, if I'm not mistaken. So we got that after them. But to have this account system, especially daily, weekly quest, I think it's still something pretty rare going on. But yeah, on that behalf, we were first. But what does it mean to be first if not a lot of people see it, right? Because we were still in the minting phase and we only had about 1,000 NFTs minted. So um, there were probably some other projects that did something similar and had a lot more eyes on them. But yeah, in the recent weeks and months, that changed a little bit. But yeah, since we sold out on January 27th, so we had about 3,000 mints up until January 26th. Funny enough, that was the night my fiance and I decided to quit our jobs and do the van life. And overnight, we sold 7,000 NFTs and were suddenly sold out the next morning. Um, so yeah, talk about manifesting, right? But after that, we just kept working on our vision, and that was bringing, like I said, gamification to the blockchain. We pretty fast came to the idea of dungeon raids, but then it took quite a while to develop it because we started developing it with a smart contract. So obviously that was much more complicated. Once the co-founder and main developer dropped out mid-year, I had to look for a new developer. That was probably one of the toughest phases for me personally and for Tavern Squad, because there were concerns going on. I didn't want to make the community even more concerned, so I tried to find someone new kind of behind the scenes, which worked out really great. So we found a new dev. He's now the main dev of the collection. He had some great inputs. We walked away from the idea of having a smart contract for dungeon raids. It's now all non-custodial. And like Dave from Dirtbirds always says, just because someone has something can be on chain, it doesn't have to be on chain. And so I think not locking up the NFTs on chain was probably one of the best decisions, because the user experience is just so much better now. Especially you would probably know how good it is from kind of playing it daily. It's just smooth. You don't have to sign anything. It just works, right?
100%. It's really simple to do. So it's, I kind of like the UI. We'll talk about that. Um, can I ask you a question? How many daily people do you have using this app right now? Are you keeping track of those numbers?
Yes, yes. I'm not sure. I probably mention it every chance I get. I love numbers. I love statistics. So that's definitely something we're keeping track of, and much more. So in total we had over 650 individual players starter rate, and on daily average we have over 300 people using dungeon raids right now.
That's awesome. I know most people are like, oh, well, that's a low number, right? But if you look at other games in other D apps, I bet you there's probably less than 300 people using them. So I'd be interested in those numbers. Are you going to be publishing those anywhere?
Yeah, so let me pin a tweet. We published those numbers a few days ago, with the actual individual players on a daily basis. I yet have to do another tweet with some updated ones, so I just pinned it to the space. That were the statistic for the first 9 days, and you can really see how it was growing from the start. So we have new people constantly coming in, and yeah, like you said, from what I heard from other projects, it the numbers. I mean, I can't really check it because I can't look into the statistics of other projects. But from what I heard, even having 50 daily players is something kind of big, like it seems in the Cardano NFT space for the gaming side of things. So I think that just shows that gamification over an actual game might be the way to go for now. And I'm really happy. I'm actually overwhelmed by the user numbers. I was hoping for much less. So yeah, very happy.
Okay, so now that I got my kind of personal questions out, I'm a numbers guy too. Like when it comes to like players, I want to see how the game is growing. That way, as a holder of your NFTs, right? Because I want to see you succeed. So that stuff
Yeah.
interests me. So, like the more you put that out, I think the better off you'll be. But tell me, there's some lore behind the game, right? Can you tell me
Yeah.
about the game and then the lore?
Yeah, sure. So, I think the lore kind of started out to be something a little bit detached from what we've worked on. But we had lore going on since basically the beginning. So we have 4 chapters released so far. Every single chapter is voice acted as well. I see Mr. Douglas in here in the space, so he's the one that is doing all the voice acting. He's doing a phenomenal job. I'm like a huge fan of the acting part of our lore, especially if you listen to chapter 3 of the lore, when the heroes of the lore are fighting in a raid. It's just the sound effects he put in there is just mind blowing, and it's all voice acted by one single person. But he has voices for all the different characters. And when we started out all this, I think we had 3 samples for each character. So there was about 15 samples of voices that we could choose from for our lore. So that was like, I never been through a process like that before, and it was just amazing that we were able to kind of steer the direction of how the characters would feel, act, and yeah. So lore is still a big part of the project. Mr. Douglas is still part of the team, I would say. And we're working on more chapters, and we are working on tying the lore more to dungeon raids. So you will be able to find names of the dungeons, enemies that are in the actual raids, descriptions of the raid fit the lore in the future. I think the first time that will it tie together is kind of in depth 2, which will unlock next week, and then the lore is coming following. So right now we're a little behind with the lore, and we're trying to kind of make it that everything is in line and streamlined. So whenever we bring out a new depth, we might bring out the new lore chapter as well, so you can kind of listen to it while playing the game and doing all this. So yeah, lore is still going strong.
So, kind of on that, the whole storytelling, right? So you go in the game, and we'll talk about some of the characters and stuff here in a second. But is there in the future plans to like write a story for each raid so that you can kind of follow your characters along, as because some of these raids are like, I'm on one now that's 30 days long, right? Is there any plans in the future to kind of have a story to go along with those days?
Yeah, so the main purpose of these long raids actually was to allow every sort of person to find a raid that suits their schedule. So while the 30-day raid should normally be for the people that don't want to check in daily to kind of read about what is going on
Well,
in the
did you
raid
see the
on the
loot? Did you see the loot prices on that bad boy? Whew.
Yeah, true. But if you do the calculations, you're gonna figure out that the short ones are actually giving more loot on a day if you calculate it on fragments per day. Because that's also something that we did different than other projects. We wanted to reward people for wanting to come back daily in our ecosystem rather than sending something on a mission for 30 days and just check back in 30 days. So shorter rates give more loot calculated down on the daily loot. But totally get what you're saying, and I didn't really think about tying lore to raids in that way. But what we've been talking about internally are kind of D&D style raids for the future, where you would be able to actually become part of a raid and sit down in front of dungeon raids and, I don't know, play for half an hour, stop, play half an hour the other day, but where you have chances, um, rolling dices, lore, artwork, voice acting, everything combined in this really. Then I would even say it's a real game experience where you like sit in front of a computer and kind of play for 2 hours in a way where it's obviously still not a AAA game, or where you can't run around in the game, but where you are kind of part of the actual raid and have to make decisions, and the outcome of the raid is then based on what decisions you make.
Yeah. So let's get a little bit into the game specifics. There's 5 classes, right? There's and then can you tell us a little bit like that? You have classes, there's races. Can you kind of break down what all that is?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, for everyone that will listen now and then afterwards think, oh, what did he just say and where can I read about it? It's everything that I'm saying and kind of talking about now is in our white paper. So that was one of my biggest kind of wishes to have at some point a white paper that reads really good and tells you basically everything you want to know about our project. And yeah, now we'll dive into the mechanics of dungeon raids. So um, you have when you start out the dungeon raids, you obviously need an NFT from our collection, and like you said, every NFT from our collection is assigned a class and an attribute. We have 9 different classes, and the class is based on the armor that the individual NFT is wearing. So, for example, we have barbarians, cleric, rogues, wizard, and paladin, and 3 more. And then you also get an attribute that is based on the back item. There are 3 attributes, Dex, Int, and Strength, and they will give you a little buff. So while the classes are used to counter enemies that have a weakness to that specific class to give you a boost in success chance for the raid, the attributes are kind of a buff, a general buff that gives more loot, more success chance, or less duration on the raid. And then you also have item-based buffs. So whenever there's a legendary trait involved, legendary trait means under 3% rarity, you also get an individual buff for that item. For example, if you have the crown, then you get 2% more loot. If you have the dungeon background on your NFT, it's minus 5% duration on the raids. If you have the red familiar, it's minus 5% duration plus 5% loot. So we have various different mechanics going on already. And yeah, then you can select a raid from one of the 5 depths. Right now, only depth 1 is unlocked. You will see 4 raids per day, and they re-roll on midnight UTC. And then you can see new raids. So there are in total 6 raids for depth 1 with different days, different loot. And then you can click on it, select your adventures, and send them on the raid. Before you send them off, you see the success chance of that raid being successful, and you can increase it by countering enemies, having NFTs with certain buffs, and maybe more in the future.
So one of the things that I'm actually on, I gotta check my raids. So you get 1 free raid slot, right? And then there's other slots that you have to pay for. And some of the dungeons and raids you have to pay in this token called, or fragments of a token. Can you talk about a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So for user experience reasons, we decided to have an off-chain and on-chain token. So, and to make it kind of logical, we have wormstone fragments, and you can craft these fragments into wormstones at a rate of 10 to 1. So we wanted to not only have a system that is user-friendly, but we also wanted to make that to have a system that kind of makes sense if you look on it. So yeah, it makes sense that if you have kind of stone fragments, you can craft them into a stone. So we have wormstone fragments. That's the off-chain token, referred to as fragments, and we have wormstone, the on-chain token. Everything entry costs to raids and rewards are in fragments, so you don't have to sign anything, and it's easy to use. And then you can craft them into the on-chain wormstone, because the wormstone then is needed to unlock certain things within our ecosystem or within dungeon raids. And yeah, I can be transparent in that way. That's basically how we collect funds to fund the whole project. So when you refer to the one dungeon, to the one raid slot that is free, you start with one raid slot, and if you have multiple NFTs, you can unlock additional raiding slots, so you can have more raids going on at the same time, and those raid slots, for example, cost 10 ADA plus 10 worm. So you have a combination of ADA and worm there. And obviously, it all depends on how ADA is doing and what the future features of dungeon raids are. But if something happens to these costs, it's most likely only going to go down in the future because we will bring in more opportunities for the team or for the project to get back funds to then work on future features. But right now, everything that has fees involved is pretty low, I would say.
Yeah, and I like the idea that you did that. You get your one free slot, and if you want to pay for another slot, you can. It's up to you, right? And I'm a bag holder. I've been waiting for this since you first came on this show. So I had to open up multiple slots, and I thought, wow, that's a great way for them to continue to earn income and continue to develop, right? Because yeah, you sold 10,000 NFTs, but let's be honest, you did that how long ago, and prices fell, and it still costs money to develop. So it's a great funding mechanism. I pinned to the top a picture of a raid that I'm currently on so that you can kind of see some of the things that he was talking about. And that's my A squad, by the way, that I sent in on that raid. So, Pyro, do you have a question, sir?
Yeah. So I was wondering, you don't need, I'm assuming from what I heard is you don't need your NFT to play, or do you need NFTs
you
at
have
all?
you have to have an NFT, right? You have to have a Tavern Squad, and being a single sometimes isn't going to let you win any raids. So
if you
Yeah,
don't
I
have a
think
Tavern Squad, so it's only for like 10,000, or are you gonna add any more players?
That was my
so. Yeah,
question.
obviously especially with, let's call it, the recent pump we had, the entry barrier isn't fairly low anymore, and obviously that's something we will look into in the future. While I'm not a fan of just releasing another collection because you could run into the same issue where the floor of the second collection just could be very high as well. I would rather try to introduce a system where you would have a flat fee for people to kind of enter your gaming environment and maybe have a much less powerful adventurer, and they, I don't know, could rent out other NFTs or NPCs in the future to kind of become part of the gaming experience without having to spend, I think right now, around $100 for a single NFT to then figure out, okay, well, I now spend 100 euros or dollars, and I can't even really go into lower depth. But we already have plans to, so the next big feature we are working on will address this as well. So there will be options for players with just one NFT or with not as many strong NFTs to still go in the lower depth. And then obviously in the future we will also work on mechanics that we can make sure that the entry barrier is rather low, because I'm a fan of having a lot of people in the ecosystem, and I think that's where the value for the project comes in as well.
Yeah, I guess that's my biggest question is these, because it's probably not 10,000. There are probably players who have multiple of these NFTs. But is this
well, it's called a squad. Like you should have three. I can't help it. You're late to the game, Pyro. Okay, sorry.
Well, but he has a point. I
I'm
mean,
just
that
busting.
means there's only 3,333 players. Then, if you have supposed to have three, that limits your game, right?
Yeah, so
I mean,
that's
you're
my
not
question is
supposed
the
to have
scaling
three.
of that. Is
You
that
can,
comfortable
a
where
lot
it's
of the
at?
raids, especially if you counter one of the enemies, you can kind of easily do with a solo raid on the first depth. And like I said, we will then make sure to include mechanics where it's easier to raid with a single NFT or have a lower entry barrier in the future. But to be honest, looking at the Cardano community and especially the kind of gamified Cardano community at the moment, I don't think there is a problem with having not enough supply for now. I think if the space grows, we'll definitely make sure that everyone that wants to enter can enter.
So you're comfortable with the current scaling system of your game until, the market or some other system comes into play. Yes? No? Sounds like it.
I don't know if he can hear you. Can you hear Pyro?
He might be
I think
rugging.
sometimes
Yeah.
my internet here in Morocco is rugging from time to time, so sorry if I ignored someone.
Oh, you're all right, man. I lost my whole train of thought. Oh, yeah. I was going to pick on Pyro because he doesn't have any characters and he's late to the game and now he's crying about it. Ha ha ha. No, I'm joking. But that is an actual concern, right? Because you want to grow the game and there's only 10,000. What if there's 50,000 people that want to play the game? So it is a real problem that you may run into in the future.
Or even new investors.
Yeah, definitely. I might have rucked on the part where I explained what we would do then, but we'll definitely looking into mechanics to make sure that everyone that wants to enter can enter at a low entry barrier.
I will rent Pyro, one of my squad members, for a low fee, for a very low fee of 1 ADA per raid. So
See, that might be an idea, and we talked about that idea already as well, where you could maybe rent out your NFTs to someone else. I
they
think
call
it's
them
just
mercenaries, right? I mean, it's a mercenary squad.
yeah, something like that. I mean, that's the beauty. Like we could spend 10 minutes and come up with 5 different ideas to make the entry barrier very low in a way where it still makes sense in this RPG environment. And this is such a nice thing about what we have going on. If there is a problem we have to address, we have so many options in a gamified RPG way to make it fun and to make sure everyone can be part of it. And we will do that in the future.
Awesome. So, speaking of the future, you said that there's multiple raids and the multiple depths to this. And the first depth is open now. The second depth opens, I'm going to probably mess this up, January 10th?
Yes.
Okay.
Perfectly right.
So the second, that which I'm excited for, and the one I pinned up above is, I think, the raid that you have to go on to open depth to. So I'm hoping that I'll have it open right away. Oh.
Yeah, so the depth the rate that you are on right now is the boss rate of depth 1, and I can give a little alpha when it comes to how unlocking depth 2 works. So there are multiple things you have to do to being able to unlock it, and the boss rate is one of them. And then again, it's like the raid slots, you're gonna have to pay a small worm fee and a small ADA fee to unlock depth 2. Because it's a one-time thing. Once depth 2 is unlocked, you obviously never have to unlock it again, and you can just raid in depth 2 after that. And the depth are bringing more loot on daily basis while getting a little bit harder.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you concerned with people just going in and always winning, right? I mean, my win percent's 100, but I always send 3 people in. I've done some solo raids, and I've seen you post numbers on how many people were successful. Are you concerned that maybe it's too easy and that there's too many people succeeding? Or do you think that's just because it's depth 1?
To be honest, there should be a depth where that can always be possible because I want people to participate in something that is fun and not too challenging right away, and B, it's still kind of a gamified staking system, right? So if you would always have to worry if your kind of staking works out, I think it would be kind of unfair. So we have the option for people to play it safe, but I'm going to tell you now that you will have to have a really good squad for the lower depth to make it really safe. So there comes in the part where loot is getting higher in the lower depth and the chances or the difficulty is going up dramatically. So I think it will be fairly balanced out in the future. I'm constantly tracking all the stats to make sure that, because we also haven't launched tokenomics yet, we're working out the tokenomics based on the data we're gathering, because I think it's just smarter to use actual data than just guessing what could happen. So I'm tracking all the data on daily basis, and so far everything is going perfectly fine. The only thing that we have done is set a final a total amount of our on-chain token, and then we started to adapt loot to that number so it kind of fits our idea of the tokenomics, and then we'll work out the exact tokenomics during the beta phase.
So I was talking, and I haven't figured out how to use the mute button yet. I've only been running a Twitter space for 2 years almost now. So I don't even remember what I was saying, but can you tell me? Okay, so you have Depth 2 coming up, right? And obviously new lore that you're working on to go with that depth. Let's say Tavern Squad is successful and you overcome some hurdles, and it's 5 years from now. What's going on in the tavern in 5 years?
That's a really good question. So I think for now, and I've said that to many people so far, or friends that I talk to, or friends from the space, that I think Dungeon Raid will definitely be our plan for the next, I don't know, let's say 2 years. But then I'm open to if Dungeon Raids is the ultimate plan for Tavern Squad, or if there is more to come. So obviously, a lot of people ask about a game and stuff like that. I think you would have to approach it differently than we approached Tavern Squad and Dungeon Raids, because we've built the ecosystem through the CNFT community. I think if you're working on an actual game, you would have to approach it from the gaming community and then introduce them to NFTs rather the other way around, because I think the NFT community as a whole, especially the Cardano NFT community, is just not big enough for an actual game to at least to introduce the game from that side. But there are definitely enough gamers out there to introduce them to a game. So that could be something that is where the tavern would be at in 5 years. But to be honest, I can't even really give you a perfect answer to that. I know that we'll still be around, and I'm 100% sure that we'll still be relevant in 5 years. But I can't actually tell you if Dungeon Raids will be the sole thing that Tavern Squad will have going on.
Perfectly acceptable and great answer, right? Because who knows what 5 years hold. And I'm not Lido. I'm not going to ask you what's going to happen in 50 years. So I only go 5 years. Lido's asking.
Thanks.
Anybody have any questions? Feel free to come up, request speaker, raise your hand. Block Jock, you have anything? Go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask him the 50-year question since Lido wasn't here, but apparently, you're not going to ask him. But yeah, I'm going to ask the 50-year question. Are we secure through 50 years, with the NFT project and the game?
I mean, I would be 77 by then. So I hope I'm pretty sure I'm still going to be around. I'm not sure if I'm still going to lead Tavern Squad in 50 years, but someone will probably, hopefully. So I will sit somewhere on, I don't know, the melodies won't exist then anymore, but I will sit somewhere in the world, enjoy life, and make sure that Tavern Squad is taken care of.
I like it. I'll be 107, so hopefully I'm still alive. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Holy Christ, 100. You're old, Block Jock.
Yeah, trust me. I know, compared to everybody else in these rooms.
So what's been the biggest challenge for Tavern Squad to overcome so far? I guess probably the whole dev thing is kind of what you mentioned before. Was there something else?
I think that was probably by far the biggest challenge, especially because I was so ready to start giving back to the community, because they have been around for quite a while waiting for us to kind of release Dungeon Raids. And for me personally, it was really hard to go through the phase where suddenly you are within a project that is very dev focused and you don't understand a single line of code. I suddenly had to take over server hosting. I just getting all the logins to all these accounts and making sure everything is going the way it should go was kind of, I had no clue. So taking all that over while not having a new dev yet felt quite stressful. So I would say that was the biggest challenge without a doubt. But then at the same time, my network within the Cardano community grew, and I knew that this is probably the biggest asset Tavern Squad has. That is me and the network I built. And so, yeah, we overcame that hurdle as well. And looking back, it was probably the best thing that happened to Tavern Squad for various different reasons.
It's always
But
have fresh eyes on a project, right?
yeah,
Somebody
exactly. And yeah, I think the new setup is really strong, and also, yeah, really strong for future developments that we are working on right now.
So we are halfway through the show. And if you've enjoyed it so far, Tavern Squad is our only guest. We do have them booked for an hour. However, if they don't have any more questions, we'll let them off the hot seat. They can hang out. We can do whatever. But if you have questions, please feel free to request, come up, ask Tavern Squad and what's going on in the world of Cardano. Do me a favor, tweet out the space. There's a little comment section down below. If you own a Tavern Squad and you happen to be here because you're squad up, post a picture in the comments down below. I want to see what you're rolling with. I want to see what your squad looks like. And then, since you bought ADA, since the price was low, and you have it sitting on an exchange, you should take it off of that exchange and stake it to a stake pool. Epoch over there, he has a stake pool. I'm Hero Pool. I got a stake pool. You can stake to me. Joker down there. I see Joker. He's always around. Appreciate Joker. He has one pool. Jenny has a secret pool. Can't stake there. Lido Nation does a lot of Catalyst work. You can stake the Lido. Who else is in here? I know there's some other stake pool operators in here. Anyhow, you get the point.
We got Karma.
Exchange.
Yeah, we got Karma Pool. We got Envy Pool.
Yeah.
We got Swift Crypto. He's great.
So get your funds off an exchange, stake it to a stake pool, and earn some rewards. And then post those pictures of the squad. I want to see your squad. Don't be shy.
Hero, did you get your money off Celsius yet? I'm just curious. I thought maybe you were working on that, weren't you?
How'd that happen?
Shoot, man. Maybe one day.
I heard the judge went against Hero's favor.
Yeah, probably. I'll probably never see those funds ever again. And I'm okay with that. I knew the risk when I put it on there. But that's why I tell people who don't know the risks of putting funds on a centralized exchange, why they should take their funds off of centralized. Use my dumbass mistakes for your learning purposes.
Just leave a little money, man. You can grease the wheel with that particular judge, and we'll get some shit done. No worries.
I had about 0.1 Bitcoin, not 1 Bitcoin, 0.1, 10% of a Bitcoin on Celsius. So, and all my ETH.
Yeah, I had all my ETH on there too. I lost $0 in ETH, by the way. Now, scary part about that is, Pyro, is one time I had 32 ETH there because I was planning on staking it. That was like 2018, 2019. So don't hold that against me.
Nah, I was Alex the Mashinsky fooled me too. So
anyhow, back to the Tavern Squad.
Is the Tavern Squad, since he can't hear me, and maybe he can, is this a PvE or PvP, or is it PvEVP?
Well, it's more of a gamified thing than it's not really, you're going up against non-fiction. Your squad's going up against us, rating against 3 other non-playing characters. So what happens, Pyro, right? I'm going to explain the game to everybody. So I log in to Tavern Squad, and I don't even got to log in. It remembers me. I go and I click on this little raid button, and I go down and there. It gives me an option. I have to have a raid slot open. I click on the raid slot that I have open, and it shows me several raids that I can pick from. I click on that raid. It tells me what the raid is. It tells me what the monsters are, what would counter them, and then I can select my squad of 3 characters, or I can select one. I click on select character. It shows me all my characters that are available that I have in that wallet, right, to play with. I can click on that and see what buffs they have, because like he said, certain ones have certain buffs, certain things counter. I select those characters and I click. It has a time frame for how long the raid is. It tells me how much the cost is in the fragments. and it tells me what the loot would be if I was happened to win. And also it gives me a success chance as I select my characters. So if I select one, it might only be like 30%, 40% to actually win. And then I hit battle, and I go to battle, and when that time frame comes up, I click on, the next day. We'll say it's a 1-day raid. I go in there. It says, I think success or failure, right? So I click on something that tells me if I won the raid or not, or if my guys lost. I haven't lost yet, so I don't know what happens.
I was gonna say, do you want to fail? Like, do you feel
No.
like it's necessary?
No, I want to get that loot, man. I'm a loot whore.
So what does the loot do?
The perfect summary of all that. And I think one point to add is the beauty of it all being non-custodial. Every adventurer of every connected wallet to our website works. So even if you connect a different, because you have to connect the wallet while you're in the dungeon raids UI, even if that wallet is a totally different one where no adventurers are in there, but you want to use that one because you have your ADA in there or something like that, because it's your hot wallet, whatever. You can still use all the adventures that are on your ledger connected to our website. So you don't have to connect the wallet where the adventures are in, and you can still go out raiding.
So the loot, right, is the fragments, which you then use to go on more raids. And I'm sure there's more plans for that usage in the future.
So I can't use someone else's wallet to play your game?
Yeah. For fragments, we have more plans in the future as well. I can tell that. I'm not sure if I rugged again.
Yeah, I think you rubbed again.
Yeah, so now I think I'm back. But so if you want to know what we're working on next, so right now I'll focus on the mobile version, and then we'll obviously have something
Whoa. Did you say mobile version?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's all non-custodial. Why shouldn't you be able to raid on mobile, right? So after we switch from the smart contract, we now realized, yeah, of course we should have a mobile version. That's the thing people want.
Yeah, I want to be able to send my raids on mobile, right? Also, can you tell us where you're at that point? I know where you're at because I follow along, but can you tell the people where you're at with that whole thing?
Yeah, so the design phase is kind of done. The general concept of the design is done, and we're now entering the first development sprint. Our sprints are 2 weeks, and after those 2 weeks, we can give an update on how many more sprints we need to finish the mobile version, and then it's going to be published. And after that, because we only work on one big thing at a time while fixing some little things here and there, releasing a new depth. So those are kind of considered smaller when it comes to our main focus, but we'll only focus on one big thing. And the big thing after the mobile version is going to be revealed on January 17th on a special live stream with Cardano Thor. And that's going to be something big, because to a certain extent you could probably argue now that, yeah, you're sending a raid you're sending your squad on a raid, you pay fragments, you get fragments, you pay fragments, you get fragments. So while the experience is already pretty nice, otherwise not that many people would come back on a daily basis, we obviously want to have the ecosystem really flourish. And I think the next big thing that we're going to reveal on that stream is just going to tie things together so well. It's going to be probably even bigger than the mechanics of dungeon raids itself so far, but it's going to be amazing.
Listen, I just want to throw a shout out to Oside 3000. Nice squad. Oh shit, you got lightning eyes. Oh. Posted down below. He was his squad. So I'm really excited for this announcement on Cardano Thor. I think he uses Twitch but streams on YouTube. Is that correct? Am I correct in that thought process?
Yeah. So I'm usually looking the streams on Twitch.
Okay, so maybe he only uses Twitch. I don't remember. I don't watch much Twitch or YouTube. I'm too old. I like to read.
Yeah, totally get that. And for people like you, we'll obviously make sure to put all the info out in a readable way as well, where we will update the white paper, make an announcement on Twitter, And I recently even saw people talking about a medium, and it's not being too hard to have a medium going on. And I'm probably going to look into having our patch notes, because that's something we introduced as well. So every Thursday, if we have something to talk about, we will post patch notes, what we've been changing in the whole system. So every every little change that we're making, even if it's just a minor bug, we're writing down and mentioning in our patch notes, like you have it from other games.
Yeah, that's cool because people get to see, I know you recently made some changes and I saw those patch notes, like something about the loot was going up on some of the raids and yada yada yada. So that was cool with the patch notes, and it keeps along with the whole gamified theory. So
Yeah, agreed. But I also agree that we probably have to make sure that the info reaches a lot of people. And I think we can all agree that Discord isn't the perfect way to always do that, because yeah, it can be very overcrowded in all the Discord servers and all that stuff. So I'm looking into maybe publishing on Medium or something, where you can easily throw a link on Twitter for people to read patch notes, for example, over there as well. But let's see. Not the biggest priority right now, because we have to focus on development as well. But I think we should make sure that we have the info easily accessible.
see, and I think that's me and Hobbs, and I don't know if maybe you saw that thread or not. Me and Hobbs were talking about this on a thread on Twitter. I don't remember if it was yesterday or the day before. But I would like to see more NFT projects who want to grow hire more of a social media marketing team, right? Because team like yours, right? You're a developer. What experience do you have in marketing your game to grow? Well, not you. You do have previous experience, but there's a lot of people out there who put these games and they don't have that experience and they want their game to grow, but all they're doing is tweeting on Twitter or in their Discord. You're in the same echo chamber over and over again, right? Um, yeah, can one of your tweets go viral and you reach new people? Absolutely. But to do things like a Medium article that you can then go out and put on the Cardano forums. There's a lot of people use Cardano forums. There's Reddit. A lot of people use Reddit. That you know, there's these other outlets other than just Twitter that NFT projects I think need to take advantage of if they want to grow their community.
Yeah, I think there are two types of marketing, right? I think the one type of marketing is to get your NFT collection sold, and most people are fine with just marketing it in the Cardano community for that, because that's probably enough, to quote unquote. But you're totally right. I think the future about marketing in the Cardano NFT world will change a lot. Also, I know that a lot of people don't really like it to pay for marketing or advertising somewhere, and we only did it on CNFT tools so far, but it's totally normal in the normal world, so to say, to pay for marketing, to pay for ads, to place ads somewhere, to have someone that has a reach talk about you. So while I'm still not a fan of having shady NFT guys talk about your project, why shouldn't you have a marketing partnership with someone trusted from the space, for him to make some money with the reach that he has, and for the project to get new people to see your project. So I think the marketing in the space is going to change over the next month.
Yeah,
For
I
sure.
agree with that, and I don't see a problem with marketing, but again, it's how you approach it, right? Or paying for marketing. It's how you approach it. Like you said, you don't want just John Sleazeball out there marketing your project because that looks bad on you. But if you have someone like, I'm just going to use Army of Spies, right? You advertise on Army of Spies on YouTube, no one's going to have a second thought of that. So, you know, it's all in how you do it as a team, I think.
Yeah, totally. I like you said, I think it all depends on how you approach it. And I mean, I could see how all the spaces I did in January 2021 one helped us reach new people, help us reach new people that want to suddenly mint an NFT. And for example, how much it helped that Cryptogram suddenly started talking about the project. And in moments like that, you realize how powerful these tools can be, even if they are paid. I mean, if we would have paid someone like Cryptograms to reach that many people and someone trusted from the space, we still would have reached those people, right? Maybe not all of them would have jumped on it because somewhere it would show ad, but people would probably still look into it. And I think that's when you realize that these marketing things, they actually work, and it's still a big part of any company, any startup, any product that you have. Marketing is a huge part of it. If you can have the best product in the world, if you don't market it correctly, no one will buy it.
I'm fresh out of questions. Jenny, got anything? Blockchuck? Anybody from the crowd? I'm excited for the future of Tavern Squad. I am a bag holder, but I don't ever plan to sell my squad. I think I have 11 of them. But I've
You
been,
see, so he doesn't sell. That's less players for you. So
yeah, I'm not gonna sell mine. Like I need
Yeah,
mine to go raid. And how
I'm gonna
can I
have to
sell them?
I'm gonna have to like
I'll rent
rent
them
out.
shits out to you though, Jenny.
Yeah, will you rent them to me too? I mean, you know, like a couple 8 a day or something. A couple Lovelace. Let's go there.
Blockchuck, if you
Okay.
really want one, I would sell you one. But only you.
you need 3.
I know you need 3.
I've gone
Yeah.
on plenty of solo raids in one.
Yeah, I'm not in my life where I could start playing games again on a regular basis because one, it would take over my
Yeah.
life like it usually
No,
does.
listen,
So I have to be careful.
but you're mistaking a game for what this is, right? You're not going to sit down and be at the game. You're not going to be at this game for more than, it literally takes me 4 or 5 minutes to send my guys on a raid. And then that's it. And then I check it the next, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So it's not like you're going in and fighting characters and smashing buttons. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's honestly very well thought out, and the creator has done a very good job with it so far. So it definitely looks like it has legs, no question to me.
Now let's talk about how much you want to pay to rent my taverns.
I'll let Jenny
Okay,
go
I think we need a different system. I get a vibe that Hero just wants to rent all his adventurers out. So
yeah, he wants to
maybe
corner the market, bro, on your
I
project.
totally
You know?
get it. Like, no, that can't be the case. So if we ever offer renting servers, Hero is blocked.
Hero's like, no way. That's hilarious.
What?
Yeah, see that, Hero? See what gets you?
I'll just write my own smart contract. You think I need him?
That's funny. Go rogue.
Oh man, that's the great part about a decentralized system, right? I just build a contract for people to rent them myself. I'll build my own marketplace to rent them. Anyhow,
See you do it.
I want to thank you for coming again to the show. We would like to thank the Tavern Squad for joining us today. Remember to join us Monday through Friday at 2:30 p.m. UTC on Twitter Spaces. And please remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment on each video. It will help us grow as a channel.